about on that radio show?
It was an overnight programme, so it's music.
Yeah.
In those days, you didn't have much needle time, but clever devil here noticed that the BBC stuff was not needle time. Yeah. So I used to put, like, the Goons on and the Hancocks. So you've got half an hour, and me and the security guy, Bert, on the door. We're the only two in the building. Yeah. I used to get in my car, put the Goons on, get in my car, dash down to the pier head, get a bacon butty, listening to it all the time, hoping that the record's not stuck, and then dashing back.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Ben Leo. Tonight,
might have been fired. Their wife or partner has left them.
Are you sick of it yet? A BBC guest says the German Christmas market attacker could have been stressed or lost his job. Also tonight,
rebuild trust by reforming the centre of government, cleaning up sleaze, nourishing the relationship between central government and the devolved authorities, and replacing the unelected House of Lords with a new, smaller, democratically elected second chamber.
Well, there he is. Keir Starmer said he'd abolish the House of Lords once he got into power. Now he stuffed it with Labour colleagues. So will the PM ever stick to his guns? And
with an American president who is little short of a white nationalist and racist.
Our new ambassador to the United States called Donald Trump a danger to the world. Now Trump's team have called Lord Mandelson a moron. So much for the special relationship. Elsewhere, are we any closer to finding out why Bill Gates was loitering around Downing Street before the budget? Unearthed documents released yesterday have sparked new concerns about his intentions. My panel are ready to go. I'm joined by broadcaster and commentator Judita De Silva, journalist and broadcaster Mike Reid, and the comedian and writer Sajila Kershi. And what happened when OnlyFans star Bonnie Blue met Nana Akweer?
Sounds so perfectly fine, but you're making a fortune out of it. So how much are you making?
It's about £600,000 a month.
Oh my God.
And breaking in the last few hours, Labour's Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has said teachers should be allowed to work from home to ease the recruitment crisis. Let me know what you think about that. gbnews.com/your say. A big show coming up, but first, your news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Ben, thank you. Good evening. It's just gone 9 o'clock. These are your headlines. A memorial service has taken place in Germany after at least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, were killed when a car drove into crowds at a Christmas market in Magdeburg. German media are naming the alleged suspect as Talib al-Abdul Mohsen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views. He's been arrested and faces charges of murder and attempted murder as Chancellor Olaf Scholz promises a full investigation. German prosecutors are saying the motive is still unclear, though the attacker's dissatisfaction of the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany may have been a factor. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters have gathered in the city centre following yesterday's attacks. Pictures show a larger crowd gathering of people with German flags seen waving. Now, teachers in the UK should be allowed to work from home to stop them quitting the profession. That's according to the Education Secretary. Bridget Phillipson said all state school teachers should be permitted to work away from the classroom when marking, lesson planning and performing pupil assessments. That's according to reports in The Observer. It comes after figures published last month from a Working Lives of Teachers and Leaders survey showed 47% of participants were considering leaving the sector because of a, quote, lack of flexible working opportunities. Ms Phillipson told The Observer children's life chances suffer without world-class teachers in our classrooms. That's why this government will offer more flexibility without reducing the teaching time with pupils. In other news, a man has been charged with murdering a teacher who was found dead in South London on Thursday morning. Police were called on Thursday morning to reports of a woman found with injuries at an address at Nutfield Close in Carshalton. Gemma Devonish, who worked as a head of year at Rosebery School in Epsom, died at the scene. A 38-year-old man who was known to her was arrested and charged with her murder. James Madden will appear in custody at Croydon Magistrates Court on Monday. A 77-year-old Just Stop Oil activist has been returned to jail after problems with an electronic tag to monitor her. Gaia Delap was sentenced to 20 months in prison for being part of the group that blocked the M25 in November 2022. The grandmother from Bristol was released early on home detention, but it was not possible to attach an electronic tag to her ankle due to health conditions, so she's been recalled to prison. And the Prince and Princess of Wales are funding a new programme to tackle mental health challenges in rural Norfolk communities. Partnering with Norfolk and Waveney Mind, the 2-year pilot will provide counselling and targeted support for the 1,500 residents around the Sandringham estate. Set to launch in 2025, the initiative will include training for local employers to address issues like rural isolation and farming-related pressures. It's hoped the project could become a blueprint for mental health support on other rural estates across the UK. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Ben.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, hope you're well. I was going to start tonight's show by sharing my thoughts and prayers with the victims of last night's attack in Germany. I'll still do that, I pray for them all. But then I thought how tiresome the whole thing is. How many times must we utter thoughts and prayers before we finally say we've had enough? Because I've had enough. I've had enough of being told how great uncontrolled mass immigration is. I've had enough of being gaslit into accepting millions of strange people from faraway lands who quite clearly hate our way of life, or at the very least have a few screws loose. And I've had enough of politicians in dark suits sitting behind the safety of their desks, destroying everything we once held dear. Watch the BBC last night and you'll have been coaxed into thinking this horrific attack had nothing to do with terrorism, and the loser who carried it out was simply stressed or lost his job.
50 is a very unusually high age for somebody to be carrying out something like this. There are often more than one reason why somebody would want to do this. It's not always purely terrorism. It's not purely ideology. It can be mental. There could be all sorts of reasons. Stress that they're undergoing. They might have been fired. They might have, their wife or partner has left them. They might be extremely upset about something.
Unbelievable. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick summed up the feeling of the continent last night. He said, end mass migration, revoke visas, deport those who hate us, give no quarter to extremists. We don't have to live like this. I don't care if the guy who committed this attack is an Islamist, an anti-Muslim, or even a white American. He wasn't meant to be in Germany. He was a criminal asylum seeker who was meant to be extradited to Saudi Arabia, but allowed to stay because German politicians don't care about German people. Let's get an update to last night's attack from our Home and Security editor, Mark White, who joins us now. Mark, what's the latest, please?
Well, we've had a memorial service that's taken place in Magdeburg this evening, the kind of spectacle that we always get after an atrocious event like this, when people want to come together, to be together, to mourn, to reflect and to show solidarity. But alongside that spectacle of the memorial service are, of course, the very uncomfortable questions that will now have to be answered by the German authorities about this individual, a Saudi national originally who came to Germany in 2006. And Talib Abdul Mohsen was granted refugee status in 2016, despite efforts by the Saudi government government to have him extradited back to that country. We're told that there were multiple warnings issued in diplomatic cables to the German government and the intelligence services about this individual's extreme views. There was also a specific warning from a member of the public passed to the police and intelligence services last year about the postings on social media of this individual, which were very threatening in nature. It seems nothing or very little was ever done about these warnings. So some significant questions for authorities in Germany to answer really about this individual. And of course, as more information has come out about Taleb Abdul Mohsen, people jumping on this information suggesting that he was anti-Islamist, but really I think that is a distraction and a bit disingenuous, because as far as people in Germany are concerned who have real concerns about uncontrolled immigration and the potential security threat that brings, it doesn't matter whether it's an Islamist or an anti-Islamist. What they see is an individual who was given refugee status, who was given protection by the country of Germany only years later to turn against his country, his adopted country, in the most horrific spectacle and way, killing so far, we're told, 5 people with 200 injured, but the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, saying that at least 40 of those who've been injured are very significantly injured, and some real concerns about that death toll rising in the hours ahead.
OK, Mark White, thanks very much. Yeah, indeed, there was a picture released tonight, not officially, but on Facebook, apparently by the mother of one of the young lads involved, the 9-year-old who unfortunately died. A sweet, sweet boy. He looks angelic, and it tears my heart apart to know that he's gone days before Christmas, his poor family. Thank you, Mark. I'm now joined by Deputy Leader of Rejoin EU, Richard Morley, who is live in Berlin. Good evening, Richard. Thank you for joining me. Can I ask you, have you had enough of this nonsense?
Thank you for having me, Ben. Good evening. Like yourself, I'm sure that there are millions of people in Britain and in Germany, indeed all across Europe, who have serious concerns about the issues surrounding immigration. So you are not alone in those thoughts, and my party also understands them very much. But we must not tend towards simplification of the issue, because, of course, this is an example of how attacks within society can come from quarters where you might never expect it. We've had all sorts of terrorist so-called attacks, I mean, violent attacks against people in many countries for many different reasons. And unfortunately, this attack is just another one of those.
Well, Richard, can I sorry to interrupt, can I ask you from which part of the world these people tend to come from? Because you don't see white Christians driving vehicles and vans into people at Christmas markets.
Well, of course not. But the point is that we've had all sorts of other violent actions against groups in society, occasioned by white people, in America in particular. But of course also here in Germany, also in Britain, as you all know.
Well, Richard, I would say, for example, school shooters in America are Native Americans. People who are meant to be there, they're American citizens. The issue here is that this guy, this Saudi guy, was an asylum seeker in Germany. He was asked to be extradited. Germany said no. The Saudi intelligence services reportedly tipped off the Germans many times about him. This guy wasn't meant to be in the country. German politicians let their countrymen and women down by not extraditing him.
Yes, well, of course, it's a complicated story because Abdul Mohsen was, of course, a Saudi dissident. He was at odds with the Saudi regime. He'd become atheist, and he was advocating a non-religious approach. He's totally anti-fundamentalist in Islam. So he's not like many of the other terrorists that have been, sadly, at action. I
think that's a red herring, whether he was anti-Islam, whether he was an Islamist. Regardless of what he said online or on Twitter or on X, the guy wasn't meant to be there. He was asylum seeker, welcomed into Germany off the back of Angela Merkel welcoming half of the Middle East into Germany. He wasn't meant to be there. That's the point. I don't think it matters whether he was an Islamist or not.
What do you mean meant to be there? He was legally in Germany. He was granted asylum in 2016.
And they refused his extradition to Saudi Arabia because he was a criminal. They refused his extradition to Saudi Arabia because he was a criminal.
Well, I think that's a speculation on your part. The reasons for the refusal of the extradition to Saudi Arabia was done for probably reasons that we don't fully understand. I mean, for example...
Because he was a criminal.
Yes, but the point is there's politics involved here for extradition, as you know. The German state probably had good reasons not to extradite him, which we are not fully aware of. This is not such a simple matter of immigrant causing deaths. It's a complicated issue where a man living inside a country has had great grievance against the German state, whether well-founded or not, is, of course, a matter for investigation. But he has a grievance against the police force of the German state, and particularly a NGO called Atheist Refugee Relief, which he cites on his video explaining the thing. You have seen the video that he made, I suppose.
Yes, I have. I've seen his interview with the BBC. Yeah. Yes, of course I have. Richard, is that you're not quite clearly you're not justifying what he did, are you?
Of course not. No act of violence against anyone can ever be justified. I totally abhor violence. But I'm saying that his reasoning is what's got to be considered. We don't know yet what it was.
Sorry, Richard, sorry to keep interrupting you, but I am obliged to. His reasoning for mowing down people at the Christmas market needs to be considered.
Yes, his reasoning has to be understood so that we can prevent it happening in the future. That's the whole reason why criminologists try to understand crime, is to stop it happening again. I'm sure you can understand that.
Well, I would suggest, I mean, call me naive, I would suggest the easiest way to stop this happening is to not let them in the country in the first place.
Well, you can't stop all immigration simply because...
Well, you can if there's the will there. If the political will is there, you can.
Well, even Britain isn't stopping all immigration. It's taking a very large number of immigrants.
I know, and what an absolute mess we're in. What a mess. Richard Morley, thank you very much for your contributions tonight.
Can I just make one point before I go? One point before I go. And that is that immigration is a factor that is going to be with us for a very long time because of the refugees caused by wars and climate change. And the situation will progress. There's nothing we can do to stop it. We have to live with it. But we have to learn how to live with it. Richard, and that's the task that lies before us.
How do you know that these people, for example, in Britain, we have 40,000 odd people a year coming across the Channel. How do you know who they are or whether they're refugees? They lob their phones and their passports into the Channel. We don't know their criminal history. We had a lad from Serbia who committed a double murder in Serbia. He was allowed into Britain for some bizarre reason. He came on a small boat, as far as I can remember. And then he killed a British boy in, I think it was Bournemouth or Portsmouth. We don't know who these people are. You don't know that they're refugees or asylum seekers.
No, but neither do we know exactly what's going on in the civil population's activities, do we? We don't know fully what anybody is doing.
Right, I'll make the point, Richard. If we don't know who these people are, and we've no idea of verifying their history, we should not be letting them in the country. Doesn't that sound like a sensible policy?
Well, we can try to stop them, but whether or not we can succeed in doing that is an entirely different issue. Because is it possible to actually stop immigration? I'm not certain that it is.
OK. Richard Morley, thank you for your contributions. Appreciate it. Let's get the thoughts now of my panel with me this evening. Broadcaster and commentator Judita De Silva, the journalist and broadcaster Mike Reid, and the comedian and writer Sajila Kershi. Good evening to you all. Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining me. Judita, let's start with you. Your thoughts, please, on what happened last night. And do you agree it's a bit of a red herring whether this guy was, even if he's a Christian, if he's an anti-Islamist, if he's a Muslim, it's beyond the point. The fact is that this is uncontrolled mass migration into Europe. And again, we're feeling the consequences. People have died.
I think there's multiple layers to it. First of all, the presiding sentiment is just it has to be thoughts and prayers to those who've lost family members, loved ones, and just the sentiment in the city itself, because what happened is horrifying, and there's no debate on that. But the point that you said about is him being anti-Islam important, it is, because the point your guest just made is that in criminology, You study the psychology of a criminal to know what motivates a human being to do something so abhorrent. That way you create mile markers that you can identify in other people to preemptively act before they do such a thing again. With this particular person, even the politicians in Germany have said he doesn't fit the profile, which is what is disturbing them so much, because they've had a template of understanding for who a terrorist is, who an Islamist is, who's anti-Islam. He doesn't fit the profile because he had a decent job. He was very publicly anti-Islam. Yeah. He worked to get women out of Saudi Arabia who were anti-Islam as well. So
he was also accused of trafficking those women.
And he became extremely far right while he was in Germany.
Well, so all this is based off his tweets. I mean, some of them talking about Elon Musk and others supporting the AfD.
It is based on his tweets, because when you look at tweets, it's the expression of people's organic thoughts without censorship. We talk all the time about
let me ask you, Juditha, why wouldn't a man who's happy to mow down people at a Christmas market, why is it inconceivable that he would lie or try and go under the radar by putting that kind of stuff online? But that's why I say it's so important that this guy is studied, because maybe he has lied about a plethora of things, but you have to understand what kind of a person is this to make sure we don't let anyone like this operate with the kind of freedom to do what he did. Yeah. Mike Reed, your thoughts? Do you think it matters what his...
Yeah, it's difficult to profile someone like this. It's they were warned about him in 2007, and again another twice. But how do you apprehend somebody and arrest somebody when they haven't yet done anything that you can arrest them for? So you have all these people that have got these profiles that are being watched. How many people can you put out to watch people? You know, how much money have you got to spend watching these? Presumably, he hasn't done anything like this until this date.
Well, Mike, they could have kicked him out when Saudi Arabia asked for his extradition. You know, why is it down to the German taxpayers to fund these crackpots from the Middle East? If he wants to be extradited to Saudi Arabia, why is Germany taking it upon themselves to say, no, it's fine, we'll deal with the problem? It's not Germany's problem. It's not the problem of the German people. Yeah, but the immigration thing in Germany now is starting to become unpopular. It wasn't to start with. They've now, downgraded that a lot. So, I mean, he was against the mass migration, but has he not done anything until now? What triggers these people to wait until a particular time to do something like this, which is abhorrent? I mean, a young kid dies before Christmas, 200 families are destroyed. It's horrendous. Yeah. As I said, I'm sick of it. I saw the picture of the young lad earlier, the 9-year-old. It's unverified as of yet, but an angelic, sweet boy, as any 9-year-old would be, and it breaks my heart before Christmas. Sajila, your thoughts?
Well, I kind of agree with what Jacinta was saying. Sorry. Should we? So damn hearing. I'll never hear words properly. We don't know the profile, and it would be good to kind of analyse him and find out what he's up to. But actually, there's lots of fun things to unpick, because it's like one lone wolf, which I've scoured the web. It's one lone wolf who's done this, and you're saying it's like now that is relevant to all migrants. And what do we do? So what's the answer? Do we deport all migrants and all Muslims? He's he's Islamophobic, right? Because that's what he's an apostate. Yeah, he's an apostate, right? So he's given up. Again, that's what he wants to put. Yeah, but you don't know. So you're saying that's what he wants to put over, but none of us, neither you or I or anyone else. It matters. It does matter. I don't think it does matter. I think it does matter. Actually, it does, because what you're saying is, well, it doesn't matter what he is, because if you say he wasn't anything Muslim, whatever, what he did, well, whoever did this attack, would we? And they're from France. Would we be having the same conversation? Well, he wasn't meant to be there. He's French. It's not. So you're judging this based on one person, lone wolf, acts like a nutter, and I think that the hard law should fall on him. What he did today was disgusting. How many terrorist attacks have we seen in Europe since 2004? Let's go back. But you're collating them all together to equate that it's all Muslims or all migrants, and I think that's a really dangerous rhetoric. Can you name me any white Christians who run down people at Christmas markets? There's lots of white Christians who do it in America. There's lots of in London Bridge twice, stabbed people to death. There's lots of people who do it in America. There's gun crime galore committed by white people. So what you're saying is a colour thing, then? You're saying it's people of colour. No, I'm talking about in America, school shootings are mainly committed by people who are American citizens. These people are as a result of uncontrolled mass migration into Europe. It's one migrant, one person with a migrant. It's one person with a migrant background, and what you're saying is that all migrants, therefore, are a threat to German society. I didn't say that. My point is, we don't know who these people are. Let's use the English Channel as an example.
40,000 people coming across the channel. We've no idea who they are, where they came from, what their intentions are.
And in part, I agree with you. In part, I agree with you.
They're killing young British lads in Bournemouth. They're killing people, old men in Manchester. We don't know who they are.
I agree.
This guy is random. I mean, the people he ran into are totally random. He's not running down certain types of people. He's just running into a crowd.
What, does that make it OK?
No, it doesn't. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make it OK.
I don't see what the point is.
He's running...
You're already asserting what the conclusions are when everyone is saying that this just is so random and so arbitrary it has to be understood. You don't know the motivation of this person, because knowing the motivation is the same avenue you would give to any criminal that does something abhorrent that hasn't been done before. That sets a template of understanding. But then for you to say that I attribute he's a terrorist, it's because he's an immigrant, he hates Germans, that's why he's done this.
I didn't say he was a terrorist because he hates...
The point that you also made about him being anti-Islam it's an important point, for the same reason like in America, where you see there are Latinos who do not like Latino immigrants. When you go to somewhere like Florida and you see the tensions between Cubans and other Latinos, that happens within a community where you can be against your own.
Yeah, my point is there are tens of thousands of people from faraway lands flooding into countries all across Europe. We don't know who they are. Even if 0.01% of them are nutters and want to kill, that is one too many. That's my point.
But also, can I just say that he says Islamification, right? He hates the Islamic. He thinks, Germany is responsible for the Islamification of Europe. Okay. That's what you think as well. So there's something you both have in common. But you're not going to go down mowing down people. You're not mowing people down. So why did he do that? And I think it is important to find out.
He occupies a similar sentiment, a right-wing sentiment.
I think you're giving too much gravitas to his scrawlings on Twitter. I mean, as I said, how can you believe somebody's authenticity when they're happy to mow down people at a Christmas market? And yet, on the other hand, you want to believe that's...
But then when somebody commits a crime, you do attribute all their writings to have some kind of validity to why they did what they did.
OK, we will pick this debate up just after this, because we have to change gear, unfortunately. Christmas is coming, of course, and there's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash in the Great British Giveaway. Here's all the details you need to win.
There's just 4 sleeps till Christmas, and all through the land, GB News has the chance to win a nifty 50 grand. That's cash for the new year. You could go on a spree. And the best thing about it, it's totally tax-free. From Santa with love, you could be our winner. Just enter right now, or right after Christmas dinner. It's a cracker of a prize, guaranteed to enthrall. From all of us at GB News, Merry Christmas to you all.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, good luck with that. Moving on, should Donald Trump reject Lord Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador? Trump's camp called him a moron, while Mandelson in previous years called Trump a danger to the world. Conservative Home's Harry Phibbs goes head-to-head with former Labour MP Khalid Mahmood. That's next.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Following the summer riots and the resurgence of far-right ideologies, the former Education Secretary told peers that reinforcing shared values is now more crucial than ever.
So we're asking this morning, should we teach British values or would it be a step backward?
Or how do you even start? To debate this now, we're joined by the Campaign for Real Education chairman, Chris McGovern, and political commentator Matthew Stadlen.
Well, I think these days, particularly in schools, it's quite fashionable to look at the negative sides of Britain's identity, particularly British history. Personally, I think I'm very proud of being British, and I think we need to be proud of our country like most other countries around the world are.
As Chris says, Matthew, lots of other countries do it. Heck, you only have to look at the United States, don't you, to see how sort of patriotic they are. Is there anything wrong in trying to instil a bit of that amongst our youth?
I'm just worried it sounds a little bit communist, Stephen, being told
what it is to be British. I've got my own personal but very vague views of what British values might be: inclusivity, patience, being able to queue, decency, respect for democracy and the rule of law. But I mean, very many people will have different sets of values. Some people are racist. So are British values racist? You talked about the far right. I think we all know what the far right is. It's sort of violent, xenophobic racism. But if you have, say, I don't know, 3-4 million people in this country who might describe themselves as racist or far right, and they're British, or as British as you lot and as I am, does that mean those values get taught in schools? My worry is it's a little bit communist.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Ben Leo tonight, only on GB News. Time now for the head-to-head. And Lord Peter Mandelson, remember him? He's set to become the next UK ambassador to the United States, with a cabinet minister describing him as a really good fit for the role. However, is the man who once described Donald Trump as a danger to the world and little short of a white nationalist and racist really the right man to represent us stateside?
With an American president who is little short of a white nationalist and racist. Even those who have a sneaking admiration for Donald Trump because of the strength of his personality, nonetheless regard him as reckless and a danger to the world.
And there's no love lost. Overnight, one of Donald Trump's closest aides lashed out by calling Mandelson a moron. So what do you think? Going head-to-head on this now are Conservative Home's local government editor Harry Phibbs and the former Labour MP Khalid Mahmood. Good evening to you both. Khalid, I'll start with you. The new special relationship not off to a good start, is it?
No, I think Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, is a brilliant politician. He's a brilliant individual. I think very soon they'll get over this. This has been mentioned by one of Trump's aides, and people will use all sorts of things to put this forward. He is representative of His Majesty, the King of the United Kingdom, by his government, and Trump will take it in that stride. Trump has had dollar criticism, but he realized he's a realist, that he's going to move forward, and Peter Mandelson will be one of the best people that can actually get into him and talk to him and explain what our position is.
OK, Harry, there's whispers tonight that Trump could actually reject Mandelson. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he could technically. I mean, it's normally that we would choose, our government would choose, His Majesty would choose who we would have as ambassador, and that would normally be accepted. But it's an astonishingly stupid appointment. We've got a perfectly good ambassador at the moment in the United States called Dame Karen Pierce, Lancastrian lass who went to grammar school and took a lot of inspiration from Margaret Thatcher, is that the women can be high achievers. She's been there a while, so she was there for Donald Trump's first term and is on good relations with him as a professional, respected diplomat. And the proposal is that we get rid of her and we have this discredited character, Peter Mandelson, who was sacked not once but twice by Tony Blair, then astonishingly managed to get back in with Gordon Brown. Then with Keir Starmer, yet another Labour Prime Minister, he somehow manages to twist arms and get back. I mean, he's very good at getting himself into high status jobs. But he's making a bad situation worse in terms of our diplomatic relations with the United States. It's very foolish to have this person who was not just anti-Brexit, didn't vote Remain, but then wouldn't accept the result of the referendum. He's completely in cahoots with the European Commission. And the idea that he will be the one to make advantage of our Brexit opportunities for independent trade deal with the United States is absolutely absurd.
Khalid,
I think Harry's just tying himself in knots, basically. One thing he has said, which I agree with, is that he's a brilliant person for getting into perfect positions and moving forward, which is what Peter will do. He's been a trade commissioner for the EU, for United Kingdom as well, and therefore he understands the issues. He understands how to deal at very highest levels of government.
Khalid, can I ask you something?
He'll be the best asset.
Can I ask you something? The reports surfacing tonight and in tomorrow's papers are suggesting the Trump admin, the incoming team, weren't even given a heads up, which I understand is courtesy, and there was a procedure about this. They weren't even given a heads up that Mandelson was going to be the pick, which is why there is suggestion now that Trump could reject him. Why would Sir Keir Starmer and this Labour government treat Donald Trump in that way? And by the way, fresh off the back of all the comments from David Lammy, Angela Rayner, sending activists to Pennsylvania, the battleground state where Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were vying to be elected, why would Starmer do this?
Well, look, the Conservative Party regularly sends people over election times to support Republicans, and the Labour Party does for the Democrats. There's nothing new in that sense, and we do that all the time. If there's been a procedural error, that should be dealt with by
procedural error.
Foreign Office. Yeah, they should have looked at that. But the fact is, he is there. He's been nominated by the Prime Minister, accepted by the King. He'll be put forward as the UK's nominee. I think Trump wants to have a good relation, particularly with His Majesty and the United Kingdom government. Ultimately, look, we are two countries that need to get on and to move forward. And, taking one particular appointment isn't going to make a huge difference.
I agree. Harry, you've got a minute left. Sorry to push you, but I agree. We need to get on and move forward together. But Labour don't seem to be helping things.
Peter Mandelson has joined in with a lot of the cabinet ministers in making these agitprop student politics personal attacks on Donald Trump. So borderline libelous, accusing him of racist, completely absurd when he got a lot of support from all sorts of ethnic minority groups from across the United States, accusing him of being a bully, which is particularly absurd from Peter Mandelson, who's had this appalling record of dishonesty as a spin doctor. Peter Mandelson will not encourage the US administration to feel that he's a man that can be trusted, that they can do business with. We need to take advantage of Brexit and to get a free trade deal with the United States. This is an important time for us, and this is a disastrous appointment that's undermined. It's Keir Starmer putting party before
we've got to end it there, unfortunately.
Too well.
Sorry, Khalid.
To carry out Brexit.
Thank you, Khalid Mahmood, former Labour MP, Harry Phibbs from Conservative Home. Thank you very much. Let me know what you think about that. gbnews.com/your say. Up next, Partygate investigator Sue Gray has been made a live peer as part of the PM's 30 new appointments to the chamber. However, Keir Starmer wanted to abolish the House of Lords just a few years ago, and we've got the receipts. Also breaking tonight, Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary. She wants teachers to work from home. More in just a tick.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead to Christmas. After a cold and very windy day on Sunday, the weather does look like it's settling down towards Christmas itself, and for all of us feeling a good deal milder. But before we get there, we still have this area low pressure close by. Note the tightly packed isobars indicating some very windy weather, especially across more northern and western parts. We do have warnings in force throughout Sunday, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, we'll see plenty of showers moving in, especially across more northern parts where we'll see some of the showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground. So we could just see a little bit of ice around first thing on Sunday. But for most, really, Sunday is going to be a day of sunshine and scattered showers. The far north of Scotland, however, we could just see a longer spell of rain arriving here. And again, that could potentially be a bit of a mix of rain, sleet and snow. But back to showers really for Northern Ireland and Northern England. Again, across the high ground, easily going to be falling as sleet and snow. Similar story for Wales, but I think for many southern parts of England, any showers will be falling mainly as rain. And then moving towards the afternoon, very little changes. I think the best of the brightest weather will be across parts of East Anglia and the southeast of England. And for all of us, with the winds coming in from the northwest, it's going to be feeling a bitterly cold day. Could still see gales or severe gales in the north, and factor in the strength of the wind. Temperatures on a thermometer could get up as high as 7 degrees, but probably close to freezing for some of us as you add on that wind. So Monday starts off pretty cold, could see a widespread frost, but some sunshine to greet us as we start the week. But as we go through the course of the day, cloud and outbreaks of rain arrive in from the west, and that's going to herald the milder theme as we head towards Christmas Day itself. But unfortunately, it's going to come with a lot of clouds. So for most of us, it's going to be a grey Christmas this year rather than a white one.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, Sue Gray, the civil servant, we all remember her, who investigated Partygate and went on, of course, to become Sir Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff, has been made a life peer. That's as part of the Prime Minister's 30 new appointments as he attempts to swing the House of Lords his way. But cast your minds back 2 years ago when Sir Keir Starmer said this.
Rebuild trust by reforming the centre of government, cleaning up sleaze, nourishing the relationship between central government and the devolved authorities, and replacing the unelected House of Lords with a new, smaller, democratically elected second chamber.
So we've gone from wanting to abolish the House of Lords to stuffing it with 30 more Labour peers. Jadita, why can't the PM tell the truth?
I don't think he's lying. I think he's just realised the strategy to get to that final goal has to be different, because to kind of pull the rug out from everyone, he's not a czar running Russia. He's got to function legally and within the boundaries of running government. But what he's doing is stacking the deck, because to have the kinds of reforms he wants, you've got to get big swing votes in the House of Lords. Right now, it's top-heavy for Conservative peers. If you now regress the balance, and he's got loyalists to himself in there, when things start going forward, there's more chance of it happening, because he's got people who are of the same thinking as he has.
OK. Mark Reid, do you think he will ever get around to abolishing the Lords, or now he's in power, he's
a lot of crossbenchers in there as well, of course, which can swing either way. Yeah, he said he wanted to abolish it, and now he's pushing it. But as you rightly say, there are more Conservative members in there than Labour. And it's an interesting one, because I just think it should be like the elders of a tribe have the wisdom, and you go to them. And I think the House of Lords should be the House of Wisdom, where people go, what do you think, oh elders? You know, what's your wise opinion on this? And naturally, in tribes throughout the centuries, you go to the elders and the statesmen and say, what's your opinion on this? What do you think? You've lived a good life. And I think that's what it should be. But they're cramming people in now. I mean, Charlotte Owen, they're going to reveal on the 22nd of January, aren't they?
As a Tory peer, yeah. But the point being, I'm trying to get to the point of Sir Keir Starmer saying one thing in opposition, and then getting into power, Sajila, and completely doing the opposite.
Yeah, as the lefty, I am going to actually say, I think he was lying. It was a lie. But I can see why he lied. It was a strategic move. There are too many Tories, and so we have to balance it. I personally think he was right to say to do away with them, because you saying about the elders...
He lied?
Do I think he's right? He lied. He lied, but it's a strategic move. If I was in his shoes, maybe I might have done the same thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fan of him.
Can he be trusted then? Because he lied about the winter fuel payment.
Yeah, but what else has he lied about?
He spent months accusing the Tories of wanting to abolish the winter fuel payment. Labour even even commissioned their own research saying...
Look, listen, I'm not defending... I am in no way here to defend Keir Starmer. Can he be trusted? None of the politicians can be trusted. Not one of them.
Can we trust Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, we can't trust Keir Starmer, but we can't trust Tories either. We can't trust anyone. This country's lost trust with all our politicians. That's it.
What about Nigel? What about Nigel? You can trust Nigel, surely?
No, we can't. He's been meeting with... what's he been meeting with? What was the scandal this week? Meeting with Musk. And then, yeah, I assume we're going to get Musk money into GBNews.
Oh, good.
You heard it here first.
Maybe I'll get a pay rise. Who knows? I mean, yeah, George Soros has been pumping enough money into Remain campaigns over the years, so, yeah, who knows? Let's move on, because some breaking news over the last couple of hours. Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, she has said that the teachers should be allowed to work from home. I'm not sure how this would work, Mike Reid. I assume taking classes via Zoom when they're at home in their underpants watching Loose Women, but she says it ought to help solve the recruitment crisis in education.
Yeah, the retention in classrooms. Yeah, well, during COVID, it didn't really work because they proved that the people that stayed in the one-to-one communication in the classroom got better results than the people at home. You can skip it at home, it's dead easy. But this, to me, is not necessarily the teaching aspect of it. It's the marking and the preparation. Really, to give them time at home to mark and prepare at home,
planning, yeah.
Rather than the one-to-one teaching over a screen. So I think that's basically what it is, not the teaching situation. But, I mean, if that works, they're getting people leaving the profession like crazy, and you need more teachers, more good teachers. I think they should give the teachers more power, because teachers are now worried. They go into classroom, they're containing a lot of the time rather than teaching.
Well, yeah, indeed. I mean, yeah, from my own experience, but I remember at school 20-odd years ago, you spend half the time the teacher trying to control the rowdy class, and you probably learn near enough nothing. Janita, so as far as we know, this is just for planning, for marking, planning lessons and so on. Is it not maybe mission creep towards taking lessons on Zoom at home? Could we be there one day?
I don't think that that's where it would end, because parents just wouldn't have it. But I think it's kind of trying to combat a lot of ills that are driving teachers away, like dealing with misbehaviour, disruption in classes, and the actual progression of getting your teaching plan completed is always constantly being challenged because you're fighting off so many fires. If you have dedicated time where you can just get the job done, the actual point of teaching is more focused because it's more insulated and you don't have to deal with other distractions at times when you don't need them.
Lovely. OK, well, I assume it will be on the front page of the papers. I think it's in the Observer tomorrow, so we'll catch up with that in the next hour. But up next, have you seen this? For 2025, the NHS has published its new calendar for staff to take note of key days, not least 351 so-called awareness days, weeks and months that include Gender Fluid Visibility Week and Transgender Parent Day. There's also a pronoun day in there as well. So is it any wonder the health service is up the spout? Back in a tick.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest With the Sun forecast. If you're travelling over the Christmas period, it's certainly going to remain unsettled for central parts of the Mediterranean. There's an area of low pressure brings some strong winds, some heavy rain and also some snow to the higher levels. Something a little bit quieter for parts of Iberia, plenty of sunshine to be had here, but then down towards the Canaries, still the risk of some showers, although it will improve here as we approach Christmas Day itself. Temperatures in Madeira reaching around 20 degrees on Christmas Day.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier Ollie the Choc. Ollie,
hello.
Really
Hey,
good to see you this
Thank
morning.
you for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look,
you won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first.
Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour. So
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
No, it's salty, yeah.
It's
okay.
salty.
Hang on, bit more.
Okay.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy, it's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. Cheese and onion.
Yes,
Salt
nailed it. You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are off.
Oh, you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, the NHS is facing backlash after releasing what they call an awareness calendar for 2025. The calendar includes more than 350 so-called special events such as Gender Fluid Visibility Week and Transgender Parent Day. 1 in 8 awareness days are LGBT related. I'm joined now by Helen Joyce, the campaigner. Helen from Sex Matters. Helen, good evening. Thank you for joining me. I was going to read a quote there about the detail about this calendar, but we're quite short of time. So let me just ask you, this sounds absolutely bonkers.
I think so. I think that organisations that are mission-driven, like the NHS, should focus on their mission, and I don't think that they should be wasting people's time, either their staff or their patients, like this. It makes them look stupid and it makes them look lack focus.
But hang on, don't we need Transgender Parent Day, Pansexual Day, Pan-Romantic Awareness and Visibility Day, Intersex Day of Solidarity, a Transgender Day of Remembrance, a National Coming Out Day? These are all genuine days in this calendar.
You can't keep your face straight while you're reading them either, can you? I'm laughing listening to them. No, listen, people shouldn't bring their whole selves to work. If people want to do this stuff on their own time, that's fine. But the NHS has one job, and that's to keep us healthy and make us healthy when we're not. You know, leave that stuff at home, focus on what makes the nation healthier. So the days about things like dementia and the menopause, they're fine. They're just a reminder in the calendar to keep your information up to date and to make sure that everybody knows the latest research or whatever. But this sort of the pan-romantic and asexual and aromantic and whatever else that bullshit was, on the pronouns as well. My goodness, you know, leave the made-up pronouns at home, please.
I don't even know what a pan-romantic is. I don't think I want to know. But look, there's 31 awareness days and weeks for these LGBT groups on the NHS list, which is significantly more than any other topic or area. And it's followed by cancer, which has almost half the awareness events at just 16. So, I mean, to me, that shows that they prioritise all this other nonsense over genuine health concerns.
I think it's about what's cheap, isn't it? I mean, cancer actually, you know, costs a lot of money to treat and so on, whereas you can just say to everybody, have you stated your pronouns, and that costs you nothing, except that your credibility with your patients, frankly. Yeah, so I think it's that. And I also think it would be fine if well, it wouldn't be fine, but it would be better if what they were doing was actually helping healthcare for people who are unhappy about their sex. But that's not what they're doing. You know, pronouns is all about lying about people's sex. It's about confusing people about what sex is and what sex people are and going along with lies that can be bad for people's healthcare. So it's actually anti-health.
Yeah. I thought, Helen, just very briefly, I thought the tide was turning on this, especially after the CAS reports and so on. It feels like maybe it's not.
Oh, it's the people who are still in situ, isn't it? You know, people who have just got themselves into a groove and are running along doing the same as they have been doing. It's their jobs, isn't it?
Yeah. OK, Helen Joyce, you're the Director of Sex Matters. Thank you very much for joining me. If you were offended by the slightly naughty word Helen said there, apologies, but I'm sure you weren't. I have a statement to read from you from the NHS. A spokesperson from NHS England said, "These awareness days are not created by NHS England. They are shared with staff so they can engage with them if they wish." That makes it all better. OK, still to come. Are we any closer to finding out why Bill Gates, the ex-Microsoft boss, he's now invested very heavily in vaccines, of course, agriculture. He's the biggest private farmland owner in the United States. Why he was loitering around Downing Street before the budget in October. Number 10 never said why he was there. And coincidentally, I'm not going to connect the dots, coincidentally, the farmland-obsessed Bill Gates, who was in Downing Street, preceded the budget which announced that farmers would be hit with inheritance tax. Anyway, we've got some exclusive documents to show you about that visit to Downing Street. Back in just a tick.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. We're looking ahead to Christmas after a cold and very windy day on Sunday. The weather does look like it's settling down towards Christmas itself, and for all of us feeling a good deal milder. But before we get there, we still have this area low pressure close by. Note the tightly packed isobars indicating some very windy weather, especially across more northern and western parts. We do have warnings in force throughout Sunday, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, we'll see plenty of showers moving in, especially across more northern parts where we'll see some of the showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground. So we could just see a little bit of ice around first thing on Sunday. But for most, really, Sunday is going to be a day of sunshine and scattered showers. The far north of Scotland, however, we could just see a longer spell of rain arriving here. And again, that could potentially be a bit of a mix of rain, sleet and snow. But back to showers really for Northern Ireland and Northern England. Again, across the high ground, easily going to be falling as sleet and snow. Similar story for Wales, but I think for many southern parts of England, any showers will be falling mainly as rain. And then moving towards the afternoon, very little changes. I think the best of the brightest weather will be across parts of East Anglia and the southeast of England. And for all of us, with the winds coming in from the northwest, it's going to be feeling a bitterly cold day. Could still see gales or severe gales in the north, and factor in the strength of the wind. Temperatures on a thermometer could get up as high as 7 degrees, but probably close to freezing for some of us as you add on that wind. So Monday starts off pretty cold, could see a widespread frost, but some sunshine to greet us as we start the week. But as we go through the course of the day, cloud and outbreaks of rain arrive in from the west, and that's going to herald the milder theme as we head towards Christmas Day itself. But unfortunately, it's going to come with a lot of cloud, so for most of us, it's going to be a grey Christmas this year rather than a white one.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my god.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my god. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Osama bin Laden issued a fatwa entitled World Front for Combat Against Jews and Crusaders,
and President George W. Bush talked of a crusade on terrorism. In 2010, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula sent a parcel bomb to New York. It was addressed to Reginald of Chatillon. The addressee had died at the hands of Saladin in 1187. Those facts suggest that the long history of struggle between Christendom and Islamic caliphates remains relevant, at least to some militant Islamists. That being the case, perhaps we should all understand the past. General Sir Simon Mayle, a former Deputy Chief of the Defence Staff Operations, can be our teacher, particularly if we want to know in gory detail about battles to control Jerusalem, Constantinople, Vienna and the Eastern Mediterranean. His new book is called The House of War. It's an excellent read, which perhaps ought to figure in a national adult curriculum. And he joins me. But let's begin with the word crusade. What was it that drove Christians around Europe to want to cross to the Holy Land and seize Jerusalem?
Context and timing is really important to understand. It's been rather stereotyped as Christian aggression against peace-loving Muslims. The Islamic religion had burst out of the desert in the 7th century with the death of the Prophet Muhammad, and for the next nearly 400 years had Christianity, Christendom, the Christian states absolutely on the back foot. It took the Holy Land, destroyed the Persian Empire, took the North Africa, which was Christian at the time, including Egypt, of course, took Spain all the way into Tours, Charles Martel. 100 years after the death of the Prophet, it expanded in an extraordinary state.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 10 p.m. This is Ben Leo Tonight. Tensions are brewing on the streets of Germany, plus
might have been fired, their wife or partner has left them.
Unbelievable. A BBC guest says the German Christmas market attacker could have been stressed or lost his job. In the UK, meanwhile, police issue warnings for Brits to stay alert. So, how safe did they feel at Christmas markets in London today? Feel safe coming to Christmas markets, bearing in mind what happened in Germany last night?
Yeah, I feel fine. I think it's quite safe.
Also tonight, are we any closer to finding out why Bill Gates was loitering around Downing Street before the budget? New unearthed documents released yesterday have sparked fresh concern about his intentions. The first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages are minutes away and my panel are ready to go. I'm joined by broadcaster and commentator Judita De Silva, journalist and broadcaster Mike Reed and the comedian and writer Sajila Kershi. And what happened when OnlyFans star Bonnie Blue met our very own Nana Akweer?
Sounds so perfectly fine, but you're making a fortune out of it. So how much are you making?
It's about £600,000 a month.
Oh my God.
I think I'm in the wrong job. Anyway, we're finally beginning to get some answers about what Bill Gates was doing in Downing Street before the budget. I'll reveal all those all-important government documents very shortly. But first, your news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Ben, thank you. It's 10 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. German media are naming the alleged suspect as Talib al-Abdul Mohsen, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor with reported Islamophobic views in the attack on the German Christmas market. He's been arrested and faces charges of murder and attempted murder as Chancellor Olaf Scholz promises a full investigation. German prosecutors are saying the motive is still unclear, though the attackers' dissatisfaction of the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany may have been a factor. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters have gathered in the city centre following yesterday's attacks. Footage shows a growing crowd of people taking to the streets with German flags in the crowds. US President-elect Donald Trump says he has appointed British TV producer Mark Burnett as his special envoy to the UK. Mr. Burnett created and worked alongside Mr. Trump on the US series of The Apprentice. In a post on his Truth Social platform, The president-elect said Bennett will work to enhance diplomatic relations and would focus on trade investment opportunities and cultural exchanges. It comes after Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer named Peter Mandelson as the UK's new ambassador to the US. Teachers in the UK should be allowed to work from home to stop them quitting the profession. That's according to the Education Secretary. Bridget Phillipson said all state school teachers should be permitted to work away from the classroom when marking, lesson planning and performing pupil assessments. That's according to reports in the Observer newspaper. It comes after a survey published last month showed 47% of participants were considering leaving the sector because of a lack of flexible working opportunities. Ms Phillipson said children's life chances suffer without world-class teachers in our classrooms. That's why this government will offer more flexibility without reducing the teaching time with pupils. A 77-year-old Just Stop Oil activist has been returned to jail after problems with an electronic tag to monitor her. Gaia Delap was sentenced to 20 months in prison for being part of the group that blocked the M25 in November of 2022. The grandmother from Bristol was released early on home detention curfew, but it was not possible to attach her electronic tag to her ankle due to health conditions, so she's been recalled to prison. And wet, windy and wild, Christmas travel plans for millions could be blown off course this weekend. Yellow weather warnings for wind cover much of the UK, with gusts of up to 80 miles an hour forecast for Scotland and northern coastal areas. The weather has led to the cancellation of some ferry services, road closures, flight cancellations at Heathrow Airport and rail disruption. Winds will ease by Monday, though, and a mild and cloudy Christmas is on the cards for most of the UK. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Ben.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thanks, Sophia. Let's get a recap to the tragedy in Germany last night. At least 5 people up to date, including a 9-year-old boy, have been killed after the car ploughed into crowds at a Christmas market in Magdeburg. It's understood that the driver was an anti-Islam doctor who arrived in Germany in 2006 as a refugee from Saudi Arabia. Our home and security editor, Mark White, had the latest.
Memorial service that's taken place in Magdeburg this evening, the kind of spectacle that we always get after an atrocious event like this, when people want to come together, to be together, to mourn, to reflect and to show solidarity. But alongside that spectacle of the memorial service are, of course, the very uncomfortable questions that will now have to be answered by the German authorities about this individual, a Saudi national originally who came to Germany in 2006, and Talib Abdul Mohsen was granted refugee status in 2016 despite efforts by the Saudi government to have him extradited back to that country. We're told that there were multiple warnings issued in diplomatic cables to the German government and the intelligence services about this individual's extreme views. There was also a specific warning from a member of the public passed to the police and intelligence services last year about the postings on social media of this individual, which were very threatening in nature. It seems nothing or very little was ever done about these warnings. So some significant questions for authorities in Germany to answer really about this individual. And of course, as more information has come out about Talib Abdul Mohsen, people jumping on this information suggesting that he was anti-Islamist. But really, I think that is a distraction and a bit disingenuous, because as far as people in Germany are concerned, who have real concerns about uncontrolled immigration and the potential security threat that brings. It doesn't matter whether it's an Islamist or an anti-Islamist. What they see is an individual who was given refugee status, who was given protection by the country of Germany, only years later to turn against his country, his adopted country, in the most horrific spectacle and way, killing, so far, we're told, 5 people with 200 injured, but the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, saying that at least 40 of those who've been injured are very significantly injured, and some real concerns about that death toll rising in the hours ahead.
OK, so what does this mean for the UK? Because on Thursday, just days before this event in Germany happened, Surrey police and other police forces put out warnings and notices to say that armed police would be patrolling Christmas markets all across the UK. So I went out to one of those markets in London today to gauge the mood.
I was in Strasbourg, where they have a very large Christmas market, a few weeks ago. And the entry to the main part of the city, the historical city where they hold the Christmas market, was very heavily guarded.
Similar to the things we have here to stop cars, also on Westminster Bridge. Does it kill the spirit of Christmas having armed police and bollards to stop cars?
That's the world we live in, and we have to do it with it. But it doesn't really kill the spirit once you get past that.
Do you feel safe coming to Christmas markets, bearing in mind what happened in Germany last night?
Yeah, I feel fine. I think it's quite safe. I'm quite capable of looking after myself. I think with people, we just need to give people positive energy.
Do you ever miss the days or think of the days when we didn't need armed police or bollards blocking the entrances to bridges?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yes.
How did we get here?
I don't know. It's just the world, isn't it? And bad things that are happening in the world, sadly.
Bad things are happening, I wonder. Let's get the thoughts now of my panel who have joined me tonight. The broadcaster and commentator Juditha De Silva, journalist and broadcaster Mike Reid, and the comedian and writer Sajila Kershi. Welcome back, panel. Bear with me. How are you feeling? All good?
Yeah.
Excellent. Juditha, how did we get here in the UK when we've got armed police patrolling Christmas markets, we've got bollards and massive concrete blocks blocking bridges and so on? How did we get here?
It's kind of similar to what the lady said. The world has just evolved to become a very contentious geopolitical landscape in general. So it isn't just unique to Britain, it's all around the world. And it's based on, I think, the nature of political and social discourse has become very polarised. What you believe in is almost like if somebody thinks something differently from you, if someone feels something differently from you, they are your enemy. Whereas 10, 15 years ago, if someone's different, they're just different. And you don't, like, there are many public figures who have fed into a kind of environment of hate, that if someone is other to you, that's something you should fear, it's something you should rage against, it's something you should try to destroy, which I don't see what the motivation for that is, because, like you say, the celebration of diversity is something that's positive. It does, things can go wrong, but that's life. Or you cannot draw all the negatives in the world to basically people being other to you. That's completely nonsensical to me.
So, Mike Reid, Sadiq Khan once said terrorist attacks were part and parcel of living in a big city. Is he right? Do you agree with that sentiment?
No, I don't think so. No, not at all. I mean, I think you've got different cultures with different ways of life and different ways of thinking. To some people, life is very, very cheap. To us, it never has been. But to other cultures, life is cheap and it doesn't matter. And quite often it doesn't matter whether they get away with it or not. They're quite happy to do it and think, yeah, I did it. That's what I do. So, yeah, it is a problem. But how you root it out, how you sort it out, is something that we should be addressing. And yes, if you have a lot of mixed people and throughout the centuries, we know people haven't liked each other. Different tribes, different people, different countries, different streets, different postcodes have fought against each other. So we've always had that. But it's how we address it and what we do about it. And that's basically one of the things that politicians are there for, to try and address it, try and work it out, try and sort out what we do, how we do it, when we do it, how we police it.
Well, there has always been killing, indeed, and wars and so on. But, I mean, there hasn't always been terror attacks in the UK on this scale. I mean, since 20-odd years ago, we've had two on London Bridge. I was there for one of them. Westminster Bridge, 7/7. the Manchester Arena attack, and on and on and on. Sajila, would you feel safe going out in a Christmas market today? Or
yeah, I would. I think it's great that we've got a fantastic police force that does get things wrong, can I just say? But on this occasion, they've, you know, they're there for protecting civilians. I mean, I don't necessarily think one lone wolf in Germany necessarily means that every single migrant, which is what the argument is.
You said that in the last hour, lone wolf, but I've just reeled off about half a dozen to you. So it's lone wolf after lone wolf after lone wolf. No.
Oh, well, OK, so what is your point that you're trying to make? That it's like, it's...
I'm saying they're frequent.
They're frequent, what, so it's, what are we saying here?
I'm saying I'm asking for your opinions on the changing world. I'm saying these things didn't happen 20 years ago. Let's look at France, for example. In the UK, 7-7, Manchester Arena, 2 on London Bridge, 1 on Westminster, and so on and so on. In France,
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with you. The political climate, geopolitical climate, has changed. So these things are there. Do I agree with Sadiq Khan saying that this is part and parcel of London life? No, I don't want it to be part and parcel of London life. I don't want stabbings to be part of London life, but I also don't want like othering or like demonisation of all migrants, all refugees, all Muslims to be like that's the answer. Well, you know, these things are happening, so therefore it's all, and that's kind of where you're going with this, I think.
Who, me?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
You're saying that it's all migrants, that we should be careful of all migrants, that we should be careful of all
It's not English
refugees.
people blowing up Manchester Arena, Sajila.
Sorry, the Manchester Arena.
It's not English people blowing up Manchester Arena.
OK, there's other things. The crimes are committed by lots of different people. Well, what you're saying is that these crimes committed by a handful of crimes.
They're not.
But so look, all these crimes, when they're committed, they should be arrested. They should be. Absolutely, the law should be against them. This guy who I mean, I feel so sorry for the farm families. That's absolutely appalling what happened in Germany. He should be prosecuted. He should be done. But that doesn't mean to say you're going to tar every single migrant or asylum seeker in Germany with the same brush.
My point
but that is what you're trying to get at.
Sajila, just look at the facts. My point is 7-7, Manchester Arena, the 2 on London Bridge. Again, I say I was there, so I know that one very well. Westminster Bridge. At the Bataclan, Charlie Hebdo, the Madrid bombing in 2004, it goes on and on and
There's
on.
also crimes committed, but the common denominator, I know where you're going with this, because I've heard it 1,000 times on this channel.
Let me finish. What's the common denominator there?
The common denominator is what you're trying to get at, is that they're all migrants. So therefore, all migrants are responsible for all these crimes.
Well, you know that's not what I'm saying.
That is exactly what you're saying.
No, what she's saying is that that's how it comes across. If that's not your intent, then you need to be more, you need to clarify, because the thing is this. There are crimes
you don't need to perceive an opinion from me, because I'm just giving you facts. The common denominator from those attacks, they are all Islamists and all migrants.
You failed to give us the facts on that first part of the German story. You didn't give us the facts. You gave us your opinions, because we don't know the facts, because the story hasn't completely unfolded. We don't know exactly what's happened, what his motivations were. It's important that they didn't shoot him, because I think it's silly when they shoot him and you don't get to hear why they did what they did.
We've got some live some pictures just coming in from a second Christmas market in Germany. This is 40 miles away from the attack last night. This is Wernigerode, and it's closed tonight, I'm understanding. These are pictures actually from one of our producers who's on the ground. This was meant to be a hustling and bustling Christmas market tonight, and unfortunately, you know, as the fears have been raised and people are terrified, I guess, to go out, which is in contrast actually to London. I guess that makes sense because the attack was in Germany. They are shutting up shop tonight. You saw from my interactions with people on the ground in London, Mike Reed, they don't seem too concerned. Are they underestimating the
threat? They can destroy the economy, these people. You know, one person can destroy the economy. They're shutting down the shops. Oxford Street recently, when people were rampaging down there, they all closed. So certainly bad for the economy. It is a problem, because you do see on social media people saying, we plan to undermine the country and we kind of plan to take it over. I've seen people saying that. I think, really? And they have, you know, subtle ways of doing it, or unsubtle ways of doing it, to actually, you know, some people want to infiltrate our country.
Is Mike Reed a racist for saying that, Sajila?
No, I think what you make is a really interesting point. That so in Germany they've shut everything down. I love London. I love British people. That we're not. The best way we can fight against this is to carry on with our lives. So I think that's a great thing. What a funny thing to ask me. What do I think Mike Reed is racist?
You've been insinuating for the past hour and 20 minutes that I'm somehow big.
You're saying that I'm insinuating what you're saying, but then you're doing that back to me.
I think from an objective point of view that it comes across like you're branding crime. Because, for instance, looking at what's happened in Germany just now, in 2020 in Trier, a German man drove into a market, killed 6 people, the exact same kind of crime. His motivation was that he was homeless, living in his car, and just had a break, and then decided that he wanted to take as many people down with him. It's exactly
I'm not familiar with the case you're referring to.
Yeah, but see, look it up in there. But the point I think you made that's really pertinent is what Sadiq Khan said. And that way, I think that's a fundamental problem, where he goes that being in a big city, terrorism is something you're going to have to deal with. It gets very hard for people who are objective and want to be supportive and embracing to keep advocating for the Muslim community if you're not willing to speak up and completely condemn these individuals. Because what will always happen is that there's a rhetoric of, don't let this divide us, not all of us are like that. But no, come out and declaratively condemn these individuals, name them and shame them. Because one thing I notice is that they never condemn their own. They'll just say, don't let it divide us, we're not like that. You've got to show that you're on the same page as the rest of people, then it makes it easier to advocate.
Do you include Sadiq Khan in that? Do you think
what
he does,
just said is that
enough?
you can't justify terrorism existing. It shouldn't be. It's a schism of the human condition. It is not something that people should condition themselves to accepting. Why would you say such a thing and you're mayor of London? I don't understand it.
OK, interesting debate. Thank you, panel. And once again, I have to bring you the great news that you can enter the Great British Giveaway. It's 50 grand, double the last prize, and it's your chance to win. It's our biggest ever giveaway. Here's all the details.
There's just 4 sleeps till Christmas and all through the land, GB News has the chance to win a nifty 50 grand. That's cash for the new year. You could go on a spree. And the best thing about it, it's totally tax-free. From Santa with love, you could be our winner. Just enter right now or right after Christmas dinner. It's a cracker of a prize, guaranteed to enthrall. From all of us at GB News, Merry Christmas to you all.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, very good luck to you. Now, are we any closer to finding out why Bill Gates was loitering around Downing Street before the budget? New documents have just been unearthed. That's next.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
I'm joined with Ryan Mark Parsons, who's a TV personality, a columnist, and he was on The Apprentice a few years back, weren't you? That's where most people would recognise your face from. One of the youngest contenders ever on The Apprentice. How did that work out?
Well, you know what? I never in a million years thought I'd get on the show. I was 18 when I applied. There were about 6 months of auditions. It was intense. You met Lord Sugar's advisors, his lawyers, his business advisors. It was the most intense thing I've ever done. And I just thought, never in a million years am I going to get on the show as a teenager. And I got the call from the exec. And he was like, you're one of the 16 candidates. And it was just like, really? So I took a gap year. I've just finished my A-levels. I was working in Harrods before. And I just came up with this business idea, took it onto the show. And I got fired in the end. I lasted 8 weeks, which wasn't too bad. But
what was the business idea? Educate me.
A concierge, similar to companies like Velocity Black, quintessentially, that work with some of the private banks. It was similar to that. I was inspired by my time in Harrods, working with some of these ultra high net worth clients. So I just wrote a 40-page business plan like we all have to do. But I didn't make it to the interview, so I didn't get to talk about it. But no, it was a great experience, a very tough experience, but unforgettable.
So at a young age, how did that change your life at that age? Because you must have got recognised, starting to be recognised when you're going out and about town.
Yeah, I mean, it happened quite quickly because the adverts start rolling out on BBC One and then the shows go on air. It's once a week on a Wednesday. You're getting about 7 million people tuning in every week.
Yep.
And yeah, it was surreal. It was surreal. And then suddenly you get invitations to things. You're going to premieres and it was a lot. It was a lot at a young age. And I obviously had no training for any of that. But I just embraced it and I've had fun with it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, a few months ago, you may remember, several days before the budget was announced, Sir Keir Starmer and Bill Gates had a meeting together along with Rachel Reeves in Downing Street. This sparked online lots of chatter amongst, concerned members of the electorate, I guess, suggesting a link between Bill Gates and the UK government. Journalist Lewis Brackpool decided that instead of speculating, he would submit a Freedom of Information request to hopefully find out the truth. At the time, Bill Gates criticised the UK government for cutting billions in overseas aid and spending in the budget. So what does it all mean? Let's speak to the man himself now, journalist Lewis Brackpool. Good evening, Lewis. Nice to see a friendly face. Tell me what you've discovered, please, with your Freedom of Information request.
Firstly, thank you so much, Ben, for having me on. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Good to have you.
So I submitted the Freedom of Information request shortly after the budget was announced about the agricultural sector being affected by Rachel Reeves and the announcement of the inheritance tax. Like you just said, lots of chatter around online about this link between Bill Gates and that, of course. So I submitted a request asking for details, specifically whether the topics of agriculture, farming, or related policies were discussed during these meetings. I respectfully challenged the application of Section 35, which prevents people from the Freedom of Information Act. It stops or protects the government policy making process from disclosing anything to the public. 20 working days later, I received a response saying the following, quote, "We have established that your request engages Section 35 of the Act, which is aimed at protecting the government policy-making process in order to maintain the delivery of effective government. Section 35 is subject to a public interest test, and the Cabinet Office is still considering its response in relation to this public interest." So it inadvertently says that the UK government is essentially withholding information that is discussed between Bill Gates and Keir Starmer that could harm the government's policy-making progress. So I guess the question is, since when was Bill Gates, a foreigner, might I add, allowed to meddle in our policy-making process within the UK government?
So, I mean, that's quite astonishing. So, really, they're admitting that Bill Gates was there doing something which could affect or is affecting government policy, and they're still umming and ahhing about telling you the exact reason because it may affect the workings of government. Is that right?
That is completely correct. And they've extended now an extra 20 working days. So by the 23rd of January, I won't get a response due to this Section 35 that has been flagged up by the Cabinet Office. So I'm still now having to wait, unfortunately. I have submitted another Freedom of Information request to Larry Fink and BlackRock, who, of course, had a meeting very recently, but I'm still waiting on confirmation, so I won't post that just yet.
Well, it was interesting, Lewis, wasn't it? I mean, we don't know, but Bill Gates, of course, is the biggest private farmland owner in the United States. He has a big interest now since leaving Microsoft in agricultural ventures. So he was in Downing Street a few days before the budget. They have now said to you in this Freedom of Information request, we can't tell you just yet what it was about because it was to do with government policy. And then we saw in the budget, Lewis, quite crucially, the massive inheritance tax hit on farmers. So are we still just at this point putting 2 and 2 together?
Well, here's the thing. Lots of people were raising eyebrows. I raised some eyebrows, of course, when I saw Bill Gates just a few days before the budget was announced. People have the right to know what's going on. People have the right to transparency. And I don't think it's crazy for people to make these connections. So the fact that the government is just pushing this down the line screams more conspiracy. And I hate to say it because I don't just want to sit here and speculate, but it's coming from the horse's mouth. So what else can I, say or add?
And I guess that kind of response just creates the vacuum, doesn't it, for conspiracy theories, for speculation. It may very well be that Bill Gates was there to talk about, I don't know, what he's interested in, updating the Prime Minister's computer or some IT policy in schools in the UK. Who knows? It could be anything. Here's the response to your Freedom of Information request on the screen. But as you said, this government, Sir Keir Starmer especially, he was saying during the election campaign that this is going to be a government of transparency, of truth, of service. But I guess from their reaction to, well, in this isolated incident, Bill Gates wandering around Downing Street, they're not being that transparent at all.
No, and some people have rightly pointed out that it could potentially break ministerial code, but we won't go down that route just yet. And look, people just want transparency. People have not been happy for ever since, of course, well, for over 14 years now from the previous government, but this government has just been 10 times worse already. People want answers. People don't like speculation. People don't like grey areas. People just want exactly what is happening to be put in front of them and allowed to make their own mind up. Because remember, these guys have been elected by the public. They're representing the people. So for them to just keep hiding things or keep covering things up or keep pushing it down the line is only going to create more distrust across the country.
Indeed. Lewis, so when's your next update? When are you going to get a response? 20 days, did you say?
20 working days, so it should be before the 23rd of January, and hopefully I'll get a confirmation soon about the FOI request into the meeting between BlackRock, Larry Fink, and of course Keir Starmer too. So we've got a very busy new year ahead, and yeah, I'd like to wind down for Christmas just for now.
Well, you're doing some great work, Lewis, and as I said, it may be nothing, but when you leave this vacuum, it does raise questions. Thank you, Lewis, and we'll catch up in the new year when hopefully you have that response once and for all. That was Lewis Brackpool, the journalist there. OK, during Advent, as you probably know by now, we are counting down to Christmas Day, and we're hearing from church ministers all across the country. Each day, they have a very special message for you to celebrate the festive season.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 21.
Hi, I'm Richard England, Vicar of Crofton Parish. It's just about the shortest day of the year. From here, imperceptibly, the days will start to get longer. There's quite a lot of winter left, but eventually the light will start to push out the dark. The Christmas story, like the turning of the seasons, reminds us that we are never hopeless. The first Christmas occurred in a world full of darkness, full of violence and oppression, a world longing for a brighter day. The star shining in the night pointed to a source of hope in our lives beyond our circumstances. If the Christmas story is true, then we're not alone in life. Whatever long nights of grief or sorrow we go through, there is another with us, for us, whose light and love can lead us through the darkest moments of our lives. Things may seem dark in your life, in our world. The nights may feel endless, but morning always comes. Light always returns.
Beautiful message, and Merry Christmas to you. I'm going to be sad, actually, when those Advent messages end, and hopefully we continue the tradition next year. Coming up next, the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Back in just a tick.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead to Christmas. After a cold and very windy day on Sunday, the weather does look like it's settling down towards Christmas itself, and for all of us feeling a good deal milder. But before we get there, we still have this area low pressure close by. Note the tightly packed isobars indicating some very windy weather, especially across more northern and western parts. We do have warnings in force throughout Sunday, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, We'll see plenty of showers moving in, especially across more northern parts where we'll see some of the showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground. So we could just see a little bit of ice around first thing on Sunday. But for most, really, Sunday is going to be a day of sunshine and scattered showers. The far north of Scotland, however, we could just see a longer spell of rain arriving here. And again, that could potentially be a bit of a mix of rain, sleet and snow. But back to showers really for Northern Ireland and Northern England. Again, across the high ground, easily going to be falling as sleet and snow. Similar story for Wales, but I think for many southern parts of England, any showers will be falling mainly as rain. And then moving towards the afternoon, very little changes. I think the best of the brightest weather will be across parts of East Anglia and the southeast of England. And for all of us, with the winds coming in from the northwest, it's going to be feeling a bitterly cold day. Could still see gales or severe gales in the north, and factor in the strength of the wind. Temperatures on a thermometer could get up as high as 7 degrees, but probably close to freezing for some of us as you add on that wind. So Monday starts off pretty cold, could see a widespread frost, but some sunshine to greet us as we start the week. But as we go through the course of the day, cloud and outbreaks of rain arrive in from the west, and that's going to herald the milder theme as we head towards Christmas Day itself. But unfortunately, it's going to come with a lot of clouds. So for most of us, it's going to be a grey Christmas this year rather than a white one.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. The first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have just dropped. Let's start with the Daily Mail. The Grinch, Rachel Reeves, steals 45% of your donations. This comes as it was revealed that Rachel Reeves' budget tax grab means 45 pence in every pound donated to charity will now go to government. Very good. The Sun on Sunday, Free to Kill. This is the German Christmas market killer. German authorities were warned 3 times by Saudi Arabia about the alleged killer and his chilling plot to murder. Germany ignored those warnings. The Sunday Express, cuts force HMS Queen Elizabeth out of action. Yeah, a Navy friend told me this, actually. It's concerning. And that comes, of course, off the back of £500 million worth of military gear being cut the other month because it was, well, they said it was knackered. The Observer. This is a good one. Ministers resist rush to block Musk millions going to Farage. So apparently politicians, MPs, ministers, the cabinet, they're a bit hesitant to go through with calls to block donations from overseas businessmen to UK political parties. Welcome back to my panel. Should we talk about that one? Sajila, what do you think about this? Elon Musk, it was rumoured that he was giving 80-odd million to reform, but Starmer and co seem reluctant to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rumour, isn't it? It's not confirmed yet. We haven't gotten confirmation, and people are getting their knickers in the twist. But I'm just thinking, I don't actually agree with our politicians being financed from overseas. So I think that should actually be put into place into law, because I think that's what the dangerous ground. I don't know about what the rest of the
things like that. What do you like about it?
Because it's like I think it should be transparent who's donating to our leaders, our politicians, the ones that are especially the ones who are in power. Like, who's financing them? I know we had all the hoo-ha with Starmer, like, you know, a few months back with the clothing, and that was, you know, it didn't sit right. There was like bad optics. So on that respect, I think, but on this story itself, I don't know if it's not necessarily a story yet, because we don't know that he's actually. They just had a meeting, right?
Yeah, well, I guess Mike Reid, Nick Candy, the new Reform Treasurer, Nigel Farage, they were at Mar-a-Lago with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has been liking tweets and, trolling Starmer a bit by saying, we should back reform. But as Sajida said, Labour have had their own problems with, cases. You've had the £4.5 million from South African businessman Gary Lubner. You've had the £4 million from an offshore Cayman Islands hedge fund, which gave £4 million to Labour before the election. So they do it as well.
This is more transparent than that, isn't it?
Well, exactly, yeah. We know who it is.
Yeah, you know exactly who it is, so it's quite transparent. And you can see that. I mean, I think, Nigel will probably be a big player in the coming year. And there will be links forged, possibly not through Mandelson, with the United States, but possibly through Nigel and Musk and what have you. I mean, people are... You can see how Starmer's popularity has plummeted since he's been in, but nobody wants, obviously, because they voted the Tories out, so they're not going to vote the Tories back in, and they don't want Starmer in. So Nigel's got a pretty good path there. If he's backed by Musk millions, it could be a very strong year for him.
Yeah, a lot of a big war chest, as they call it in football, a big war chest, transfer war chest. Judita, one source close to the government rejected the idea that ministers were poised to rush through any rule changes to block overseas donations. They said, and I quote, "We'll beat reform by defeating their arguments rather than changing the rules to stop them getting money from Elon Musk." Can they beat them on the ground at the ballot box?
I don't know. It remains to be seen, because there's definitely a growing body of people who truly support and believe in reform, and it's a growing party that you cannot deny the presence of, and it's chipping away at the Tories and even chipping away at Labour. But the point that was made earlier, I do agree with, that it should have already existed, that foreign individuals should not be able to buy their way into politics. But unfortunately, the nature of politics is money talks. And whether it's like old British money that's funding the Tories, or Labour with like new money and new wealth and different kind of business CEOs who are walking around, number 10, that's what politics needs money. So you've got a situation where this is why the fear is justified. Elon Musk bought his way to a political position in America. It was a deal he did with Trump, and they both honoured their sides of the agreement.
But politics are more global now, though, aren't they?
No, but I'm saying that Elon Musk is a businessman beginning and end. And it's a business deal if he's going to be pouring money into reform, and he's going to want to collect on his investments. That's where the danger lies, because what is he going to want to collect?
What's your thoughts on that? What would he want in return, Elon Musk? I mean, he would say it's ideological. He wants to protect free speech and save the West, but you don't think that? No?
He's proven himself in the past. It's going to be because he has money, he has X, which means he's got people in power. What he wants is political capital. And he's not just doing this in Britain. He's having talks with different people across Europe, because he sees that having had a successful venture with Donald Trump in America, these are smaller countries that don't have the kind of geopolitical power that America has. So he thinks it's going to be an easier ride. And the point of kicking reform is it's a new party, and you're going to get on the train in the driving seats at the inception point and have the kind of control you could never have over a Trump.
So you don't believe Elon Musk when he says, "I'm a champion of free speech, I want to save the West from what's going on"? No.
He's a man who wants power. He wants global domination by having money, people and power.
And if he's paying Nigel millions, the next round is on Nigel.
Yeah. Nigel's very generous anyway. I don't think he needs Elon's money to buy anyone a pint. I think any excuse for a pint, Nigel will take it up. There's an interesting column in the Daily Mail from Dan Hodges, the columnist, headlined, "Why Labour bigwigs already wonder if this will be Keir Starmer's first and only Christmas in Downing Street." So there's murmurs within the government, or at least MPs, who are saying, or at least thinking, maybe it's time to think about what to do in terms of replacing the Prime Minister. It won't be on the front of the papers, it's inside. But Starmer's first and last Christmas in Downing Street, Sajida.
Oh, gosh. You know what? I think we got so sick of the Tories swapping, Prime Ministers, playing, what's that, musical chairs? Yeah. I don't know. I think I want to almost give him a bit longer to sort of prove himself. I'm not his biggest fan, I'm not going to lie, but I think because he's let us down the left a lot. But I do think he deserves a little bit longer to try and turn this round.
What happens, Mike Reid, if at the council elections in May, which Reform are targeting very heavily, they've even won a few by-elections in recent weeks, council seats. What happens if there's an absolute bloodbath at those council elections for Labour?
Well, I know he's trying to move me.
He's trying to stop them, isn't he? He's trying to cancel them.
He preferred them to be in 2026. The reason he's trying to get around it is the reforming of areas and the relocation of areas and binding areas together to make it more economically viable, as they've done in the 70s. You know, we moved this area to this area and put them all together. So in doing that, he's given a raison d'etre that, well, there is a reason for moving it back to 2026, but because he's worried he's going to lose an awful lot of seats.
Who would replace Keir Starmer, Juditha? Angela Rayner?
I think they'd give Angela Rayner a go, but I don't think that it's going to happen because he hasn't had long enough to truly be certified as a failure. It is too soon, and the kinds of problems he has to solve cannot be solved this quickly.
What about the elections then? May elections next year, if that's a complete disaster?
Based on the tone of the country now, it looks like it's going to be a disaster for them. But I think it's wait and see what the results of all of these policies truly will be, because everyone's got very short memories when success starts rolling in. So if some of these are successful and the tide starts turning, Starmer will have a very different tone.
So you can be voted as a leader. It doesn't make you a leader. I think a leader, you know who a leader is, whether it's, say, on the military or on the sports field, you know who a leader is. You can be voted and you can be in charge, but it doesn't make you a leader. And you've got to galvanise the people around you. They've got to want to work for you. They've got to love you, and that means the country.
How long? That's not what's needed right now.
Juditha, how long do we give the government then? Let's pick growth, which was their big thing. Rachel Reeves mentioned the word growth 39 times in the budget. How long do we give it before we say, hang on a minute, this isn't working out?
Definitely at least 2 years.
2 years?
For the kinds of problems that the Tories left behind them, you cannot give less than 2 years to actually have some kind of effect where you can judge it's a success or it's a failure.
Yeah. Could you imagine a Great Britain with Prime Minister Angela Rayner? Could you imagine that?
I think I can. And
I can.
I think we should.
You can and you want it.
A working class woman, yeah. I think absolutely we're ready for it. Yeah.
Angela Rayner. I quite like Wes Streeting. I've said, I'm like a broken record, I'll say it again. I think Wes Streeting is probably the most capable cabinet minister in this government. And he reportedly has been sort of, you know, making headway, let's say, towards a leadership bid. He, of course, was criticised for criticising Louise Haigh, Ed Miliband as well. He had a little dig at. So interesting to see. I think if you think things are bad now, wait till Angela Rayner Prime Minister, then maybe we'll go up a gear. More of the front pages coming up in just a tick. Let's get some travel weather though first for any winter holiday destinations you're heading to.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest Winter Sun forecast. If you're travelling over the Christmas period, it's certainly going to remain unsettled for central parts of the Mediterranean. There's an area of low pressure brings some strong winds, some heavy rain and also some snow to the higher levels. Something a little bit quieter for parts of Iberia, plenty of sunshine to be had here, but then down towards the Canaries, still the risk of some showers, although it will improve here as we approach Christmas Day itself. Temperatures in Madeira reaching around 20 degrees on Christmas Day.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Do you use WhatsApp at work? Perhaps you communicate with colleagues about what your plans are for a particular job, or you communicate with your closest colleague and perhaps sometimes talk about some of your colleagues.
So
who's ever done that?
Why is that a problem?
Well, because whenever there is any kind of sort of breakdown in relationships in a workplace, which happens a lot, tribunals come forward, those WhatsApp messages can be used as evidence. So as long as you're happy for all of those messages to be brought out, which could be to your detriment or not, then fine.
Let's hope they don't publish ours.
Or do you think it's just safer not to use WhatsApp at work at all? That's what the management here would say. That's what the management in a lot of companies are now saying. Apparently the use of them in tribunals have trebled since 2020.
How do you air grievances or gossip or...
There should be no grievances.
So you shouldn't communicate with work colleagues?
Well, and not unless you're prepared for it to be brought in a case. You know, it's a bit like when your rights are read to you. Anything you say may be used against you.
Taken down.
Yeah.
OK. Right, so NatWest have banned staff from creating group chats on WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger So we're asking the question now, should WhatsApp and similar messaging platforms be banned in the workplace? We're joined now by social media expert Alan Stevens and journalist Annette Kello. Confused? Am I the only one that's a bit confused on this, guys?
Well, hard to say, Eamon. I don't know. I'm reasonably sound on this. I don't think it should be banned. It's a method of communication. I think the way it's used should be controlled, and you should get some very careful training about how to use it in a regulatory environment, of course.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, welcome back. 2 more front pages have just rolled. So I just made my panel jump out their skins. We're talking about board games. The Daily Mirror, Talisa, My Secret Jungle Breakdown. Very good. I used to like N-dubs back in the day. The Sunday Telegraph. The reason we're talking about board games at the top, how to cheat at your favourite board games this Christmas. And I was just saying, Mike Reed's got some funny stories. I was just saying I was always the banker in Monopoly, and I would always embezzle a couple of cheeky notes to fund my...
I think it's just undermining the country. People like you undermining the country.
I know.
How to cheat at your favourite board games. I'm a board games player and I don't like cheating.
There's a sleazy capitalist in all of us, Mike. The serious story on the Sunday Telegraph, net zero grocery tax to push up food bills. So this new levy, which is being accused of being pushed through on the sly by the government, £1.4 billion is going to cost consumers, 85% of costs passed on to shoppers, and it's to do with packaging per tonne of food in supermarkets. Sajila, this march to net zero just gets madder and madder, doesn't it?
Well, it also affects the most vulnerable and, you know, the ones that actually need not this to happen. Honestly, I can't read the small print, it's so tiny. But, yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it's really tiny, isn't it? But I just think...
Well, what's your thoughts on net zero generally, then? I mean...
Well, I mean, I want
it's
things
mad,
to be...
Isn't it? Our annual emissions are less than 1% of the world's global carbon emissions, so we are very, very small. So why should Brits feel the pinch for, you know, when the likes of China are building 6 power coal stations a week? Why us?
A new
there should be like
every week, yeah, I mean...
what do they call it? Like, not a fine, like a... Yeah, you have to pay something depending on your...
Yeah, to offset your carbon.
Yeah. So I think each country should do that.
Yeah, well, I think we do that. I think we do more than that. Bearing in mind, as I said, our global emissions less than 1%. We're absolutely paltry compared to the rest of the world. Why should hard-working Brits, Jadita, be forced to go down this absolutely deranged march to decarbonising the country?
No, but I think it's because at the end of the day, it's when you say you're one of the smallest, that means the journey to net zero is a shorter distance for this country. And if you can do it, you should try to do it, because this is a topic that is completely split across generational lines. Younger people care more because they know they're going to inherit the effects of it. But older people are kind of like, oh, what's the big deal? We're the ones who own the businesses. We're the ones whose profit margins are kicked. We don't want to have to deal with this. But think about what that says to the younger generation, is that you really don't care about the world they're going to live in. That is something that is beyond inhumane. Do what is necessary to generationally leave something behind that they can actually exist in peacefully.
OK, well, I would say, just before we move on to Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, in the 1970s, they were saying that Britain would be in a Siberian climate by the year 2000. They said children wouldn't know what snow is, and so on and so on.
We had 300 years of a mini ice age. When the Romans were here, it was much warmer.
Yeah.
But they didn't sit debating it.
The Roman warming period, that was the where temperatures were about 20 or 30... what was the
You could grow grapes in the Northern Hemisphere easily,
There was a massive anomaly temperatures over those years. Anyway, time to reveal today's Greatest Britain, a Union Jackass. So, Gila, your nominee for Greatest Britain, please.
Oh, right. I've got to say Mark Dolan because, yes, I'm sorry, big shoes to fill, but he's a great star, a great broadcaster. I think this channel was very lucky to have him, but I forgot I wasn't supposed to do him. So it's actually Chris McCausland.
Oh, no, you can do him. That's fine.
Chris McCausland, who won Strictly Come Dancing, and he's a fellow comedian. He's blind, does amazing, amazing role model.
Great stuff. Yeah, Mark is a good friend. I texted him the other day. I said, look, when I first met you, and even to this day, when you meet Mark, he's full of positivity, full of joy. He lifts up the room. He's helped me in my career many, many times.
Big shoes to fill, Ben, Leo.
Indeed. Mike Reid, your Greatest Britain, please.
Mine is Donald Rose. Donald turns 110 on Christmas Eve. And I read that he, at the end of World War II, he took a bullet in the leg. He wrote a ditty about the end of World War II, and his carer said he sings it every day. We'd love to make it into a record. So, Donald, if you or your carer are watching, send us the thing. We will turn it. Right. We can turn it into a record for you and make a song for you in the studio.
Good stuff. Jadita?
Great.
It's got to be really quick. Sorry.
Kyle Whiting, selfless, saw a police officer in distress, didn't flinch. While he was having a haircut, even still had the cape on, ran across the street to save him because his sister is a police officer. And imagined if something like that would happen to her, he would hope someone wouldn't flinch to save her.
I saw he was wearing a cape as well, wasn't he?
It was so beautiful. Like,
he was wearing
people
a cape.
say things about young people, but like, this guy didn't flinch to help.
We're fast running out of time, so we're going to have to skip Union Jackass. But the winner is Mark Dolan. He's a good friend. He's a great broadcaster. And we wish him very well. Coming up next, it's Headliners, presented tonight by Steve Allen. What do you have on the show, Steve?
It's going to be a good one tonight. The government are coming for your empty homes, and there'll be no one there to defend them because they're empty. Starmer is going on a charm offensive with Trump, and can teachers work from home? Where will they keep all that gym equipment? Find out after 11.
Thanks, Stephen. Good stuff. Thank you to my panel tonight. Thank you at home for being with me this evening. Any plans for Christmas, guys?
Yeah, lovely plans with the family.
Mike?
Yeah, working on a book, TV, radio, usual stuff.
Nice. Jadita?
Sleep and eat.
Sleep and eat. That sounds good. That sounds very good. I'm back tomorrow for one more show, then I'm off for Christmas, thank goodness. Thank you again for your company tonight. Really appreciate it. If I don't see you tomorrow, have a wonderful Christmas, and I will see you again starting next Friday. Good night.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead to Christmas after a cold and very windy day on Sunday. The weather does look like it's settling down towards Christmas itself, and for all of us feeling a good deal milder. But before we get there, we still have this area low pressure close by. Note the tightly packed isobars indicating some very windy weather, especially across more northern and western parts. We do have warnings in force throughout Sunday, so if you do have any travel plans, do allow some extra time for your journeys. Away from the wind, we'll see plenty of showers moving in, especially across more northern parts, where we'll see some of the showers turn into sleet and snow, especially across the high ground. So we could just see a little bit of ice around first thing on Sunday. But for most, really, Sunday is going to be a day of sunshine and scattered showers. The far north of Scotland, however, we could just see a longer spell of rain arriving here. And again, that could potentially be a bit of a mix of rain, sleet and snow. But back to showers really for Northern Ireland and Northern England. Again, across the high ground, easily going to be falling as sleet and snow. Similar story for Wales, but I think for many southern parts of England, any showers will be falling mainly as rain. And then moving towards the afternoon, very little changes. I think the best of the brightest weather will be across parts of East Anglia and the southeast of England. And for all of us, with the winds coming in from the northwest, it's going to be feeling a bitterly cold day. Could still see gales or severe gales in the north, and factor in the strength of the wind. Temperatures on the thermometer could get up as high as 7 degrees, but probably close to freezing for some of us as you add on that wind. So Monday starts off pretty cold, could see a widespread frost, but some sunshine to greet us as we start the week. But as we go through the course of the day, cloud and outbreaks of rain arrive in from the west, and that's going to herald the milder theme as we head towards Christmas Day itself. But unfortunately, it's going to come with a lot of cloud, so for most of us, it's going to be a grey Christmas this year rather than a white one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Dora Carrington is not known to lots of people, and very few pieces are in public collections. So you have had a great deal of work to do to put this exhibition together.
Absolutely. It's been, next year, it will be 30 years since the last major exhibition of Carrington's work, which happened in 1995 at the Barbican Gallery. And I guess if people know Carrington's work, they might have seen the film that took place that year, that came out that year, starring Emma Thompson as Carrington and Jonathan Pryce as Lytton Strachey, who was her main kind of key relationship in her life. And that, in a way, dramatised a lot of those relationships. And so people will often know her life as much as her art. There's only 16 works in public collections, and so apart from chances such as the big billboard campaign you mentioned 10 years ago, there have been very few chances to actually see her work in the flesh. And so what this exhibition does is bring together around 80 works by Carrington and a few of her key contemporaries, providing a new generation really a chance to see and enjoy her work. She was one of the most remarkable of her generation at the Slade School of Art. She won several prizes for her drawing and her draftsmanship. And in the first room of the exhibition, we have some of the work, for example, a couple of female nudes that she painted when she was at the Slade, and they really are kind of quite outstanding.
One of the things that's been said is that in her landscapes, she's sometimes painting the human body as well as the landscape. Is that something that occurred to you? Can you stand up